So, before I wish a Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night, I will take some questions. Jay prepared a list of who's naughty and nice, so we'll see who made it. Julie must be nice. Julie Pace. Q, thank you, Mr. President. Despite all of the data points that you cited in your opening statement, when you look back at this year, very little of the domestic agenda that you outlined in your inaugural address and your State of the Union have been achieved. Healthcare rollout obviously had huge problems, and your ratings from the public are near historic lows for you. When you take this all together, has this been the worst year of your presidency? President Obama, I've got to tell you, Julie, that's not how I think about it. I have now been in office 5 years, close to 5 years, was running for president for 2 years before that. And for those of you who've covered me during that time, we have had UPS and we have had downs. I think this room has probably recorded at least 15 near-death experiences. And what I've been focused on each and every day is, are we moving the ball in helping the American people, families have more opportunity? Have a little more security to feel as if they work hard, they can get ahead. And if I look at this past year, there are areas where there obviously have been some frustrations. Where I wish Congress had moved more aggressively. Not passing background checks in the wake of Newtown is something that I continue to believe was a mistake. But then I also look at, because of the debate that occurred, all the work that's been done at state. levels to increase gun safety and to make sure that we don't see tragedies like that happen again. There's a lot of focus on legislative activity at the congressional level. But even when Congress doesn't move on things they should move on, there are a whole bunch of things that we're still doing. So we don't always get attention for it, but the connected program that we announced. Where we're going to be initiating wireless capacity in every classroom in America. Will make a huge difference for kids all across this country, and for teachers. A manufacturing hub that we set up in Youngstown, something that I talked about during the State of the Union. Is going to create innovation and connect universities, manufacturers. Job training to help create a renaissance, build on the renaissance that we're seeing in manufacturing. When it comes to energy, this year is going to be the first year in a very long time. Where we're producing more oil and natural gas here in this country than we're importing. That's a big deal. So I understand the point that you're getting at, Julie. Which is that a lot of our legislative initiatives in Congress have not moved forward as rapidly as I'd like. I completely understand that, which means that I'm going to keep at it. And if you look at, for example, immigration reform. Probably the biggest thing that I wanted to get done this year, we saw progress. It passed the Senate with a strong bipartisan vote. There are indications in the House that even though it did not get completed this year, that there is a commitment on the part of the Speaker to try to move forward legislation early next year. and the fact that it didn't hit the timeline that I'd prefer is obviously frustrating, but it's not something that I end up brooding a lot about. But, sir, it's not just your legislative agenda. When you look at polling and you talk to Americans, they seem to have lost confidence in you. Trust in you. Your credibility has taken a hit. Obviously, the healthcare law was a big part of that. So do you understand that the public has changed in some way their view of you over this year? President Obama, but, Julie, I guess what I'm saying is if you're measuring this by polls. My polls have gone up and down a lot through the course of my career. I mean, if I was interested in polling, I wouldn't have run for president. I was polling at 70% when I was in the US Senate. I took this job to deliver for the American people. And I knew and will continue to know that there are going to be ups and downs on it. You're right, the healthcare website problems were a source of great frustration. I think in the last press conference I adequately discussed my frustrations on those. On the other hand, since that time I now have a couple million people, maybe more, who are going to have healthcare on January 1st. And that is a big deal. That's why I ran for this office. And as long as I've got an opportunity every single day to make sure that in ways large and small I'm creating greater opportunity for people, more kids are able to go to school, get the education they need. More families are able to stabilize their finances, the housing market is continuing to improve. People feel like their wages maybe are inching up a little bit. If those things are happening, I'll take it. And I've said before, I've run my last political race. So at this point, my goal every single day is just to make sure that I can look back. And say we're delivering something, not everything, because this is a long haul. Mark Felsenthal. Q. Thank you, Mr. President. One of the most significant events of this year was the revelation of the surveillance by the National Security Agency. As you review how to rein in the National Security Agency, a federal judge said that for example, the government had failed to cite a single instance in which analysis of the NSA's bulk metadata actually stopped an imminent attack. Are you able to identify any specific examples when it did so? Are you convinced that the collection of that data is useful to national security and should continue as it is? President Obama, let me talk more broadly, and then I'll talk specifically about the program you're referring to. As you know, the independent panel that I put together came back with a series of recommendations, 46 in total. I had an extensive meeting with them down in the situation. Room to review all the recommendations that they had made. I want to thank them publicly, because I think they did an excellent job and took my charge very seriously. Which is, I told them, I want you to look from top to bottom at what we're doing and evaluate. Whether or not the current structures that we have and the current programs that we have are properly addressing both our continuing need to keep ourselves secure and to prevent terrorist attacks. Or proliferation of weapons of mass destruction or other threats to the homeland. And are we also making sure that we're taking seriously rule of law and our concerns about privacy and civil liberties? So what we're doing now is evaluating all the recommendations that have been made. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to assess based on conversations not just with the intelligence community. But others in government and outside of government, how we might apply and incorporate their recommendations. And I'm going to make a pretty definitive statement about all of this in January, where I'll be able to say, here are the recommendations that we think make sense, here are ones that we think are promising but still need to be refined further. Here's how it relates to the work we're doing not just internally but also in partnership with other countries. And so I'm taking this very seriously because I think as I've said before, this is a debate that needed to be had. One specific program, the 215 program, is the metadata, the bulk collection of phone numbers and exchanges. That have taken place, that has probably gotten the most attention, at least with respect to domestic audiences. And what I've said in the past continues to be the case, which is that the NSA, in executing this program, believed, based on experiences from 9/11, that it was important for us to be able to track if there was a phone number of a known terrorist outside of the United States calling into the United States. Where that call might have gone, and that having that data in one place and retained for a certain period of time allowed them to be confident in pursuing various investigations of terrorist threats. And I think it's important to note that in all the reviews of this program that have been done, in fact, there have not been actual instances where it's been alleged that the NSA in some ways acted inappropriately in the use of this data. But what is also clear is from the public debate, people are concerned about the prospect, the possibility of abuse. And I think that's what the judge and the district court suggested. And although his opinion obviously differs from rulings on the FISA court, we're taking those into account. The question we're going to have to ask is, can we accomplish the same goals that this program is intended to? Accomplish in ways that give the public more confidence that, in fact, the NSA is doing what it's supposed to be doing. I have confidence in the fact that the NSA is not engaging in domestic surveillance or snooping around. But I also recognize that as technologies change and people can start running algorithms, and programs that map out all the information that we're downloading on a daily basis into our telephones and our computers. That we may have to refine this further to give people more confidence. And I'm going to be working very hard on doing that. And we've got to provide more confidence to the international community. In some ways, what has been more challenging is the fact that we do have a lot. Of laws and checks and balances and safeguards and audits when it comes to making sure that the NSA and other intelligence agencies are not spying on Americans. we've had less legal constraint in terms of what we're doing internationally. But I think part of what's been interesting about this whole exercise is recognizing that in a virtual world, some of these boundaries don't matter anymore. And just because we can do something doesn't mean we necessarily should. And the values that we've got as Americans are ones that we have to be willing to apply beyond our borders, I think perhaps more systematically than we've done in the past.